I'm teacher Sandy from Kangaroo Study. Welcome back to our channel. Today, I will explain the question from MGS Prelim Math paper in 2025. Now, let's read the question together. At a talent show, 23 participants invited either 1, 2, or 3 guests. The number of participants who invited 1 guest to those who invited 2 guests was 2 to 1. There were 44 guests altogether. Find the number of participants who invited 3 guests. So class, before solving the question, I want to give an example first. Now let's see here. There are a number of chickens and rabbits in the same cage. From the top, there are 55 heads. From the bottom, there are 100 legs. How many chickens and how many rabbits are in the cage? So class, how many legs that one chicken has? It has 2 legs. How many legs that one rabbit has? It has 4 legs. So class, what should we do first about this question? We can assume the 35 is all chickens. Then how many legs are there? It should be 35 times 2 equals to 17. But actually class, how many legs we have here? We have 100 legs, which means our assumption is true or false. Unfortunately, our assumption is false, which means here we need to use some rabbits to replace some chickens. And now class, let's imagine if I use 1 rabbit to replace 1 chicken, then how many legs will increase? It should be 4 minus 2 equals 2. And here class, we need to increase how many legs totally? It should be 100 minus 70 equals to 30. Then we can use 30 divided by 2 equals to 15. So class, the 15 is the number of which animal? It should be the number of rabbit. Then can we know the number of chickens? We can use 35 minus 15 equals to 20. And this is the number of chickens. And also, you can assume all rabbits, then also use the same method. So, we call this type of question as the chicken and the rabbit question. And now, let's try to find the features of chicken and rabbit question together. So class, what does the 35 heads mean here? It means the total heads. So this is the first total value. Then what does the 100 legs mean here? It means the total legs. So this is the second total values. So here, 2 total values, 2 single values, which are 2 legs and 4 legs. Then we can use assumption and adjustment method. So let's go back to our question now. And we read the question once again. At a talent show, 23 participants invited either 1, 2, or 3 guests. The number of participants who invited 1 guest to those who invited 2 guests was 2 to 1. There were 44 guests altogether. Find the number of participants who invited 3 guests. So class, here we have 2 total values, which are 23 participants and 44 guests. But class, how many single values we have here? We have 3 single values, but the example I mentioned before, we only have 2 single values. So, since we didn't learn the question with 3 single values before, the idea here is to transfer our unknown question to our known question, which means we can transfer 3 single values to 2 single values. And now class, can you find any relationship among the number of participants who invited 1, 2, or 3 guests from the question? Oh, it's here! The number of participants who invited 1 guest to those who invited 2 guests was 2 to 1. And now let's write here. So here I use the circled number 1 to represent the number of participants who invited 1 guest. Then their number ratio is 2 to 1. So class, since we want to transfer 3 single values to 2 single values, and now we know the number ratio relationship, which means we can combine this part as a group, and we name this new group as the group A. So class, how many participants in the group A? It has 3 participants. Then how many guests are there? It should be 1 times 2 plus 2 times 1 equals to 4 guests. And then we only leave the number of participants who invited the 3 guests. So we call this as the group B. Then if there are 3 participants in the group B, how many guests are there? It should be 3 times 3 equals to 9 guests. So class, here we have 2 total values, we have 2 single values, which are 4 and 9. Which method can we use now? We can use assumption and adjustment method. So what should we do first? We can assume the participants all invited 3 guests. Then how many guests are there? It should be 23 times 3 equals to 69 guests. But actually class, how many guests we have here? We only have 44 guests. So is our assumption true or false? Unfortunately, it's false again, which means here we need to use some group A to replace some group B. Then if I use one group A to replace one group B, how many guests will decrease? It should be 9 minus 4 equals to 5 guests. So class, we need to decrease how many guests totally? It should be 69 minus 44 equals to 25. Then we can use 25 divided by 5 equals to 5. So class, what does the 5 mean here? It's the number of group A or group B. It should be the number of group A. Then since one group A has 3 participants, how many participants here totally? It should be 5 times 3 equals to 15 participants. So this is the number of participants in group A. Then can we know the number of participants in group B? We can use 23 minus 15 equals to 8. And this is the number of participants in group B. Or we can say this is the number of participants who invited 3 guests. So this is the solution of this question. And now let's summarize today's class. So if we can find the 2 total values, 2 single values, then we can use assumption and adjustment method. But if there are 3 single values, what should we do first? We should transfer 3 single values to 2 single values. Then we can use assumption and adjustment method. So this is today's practice. Please finish this after watching this video. Then if you want to contact with me, you can through these 2 QR codes. So this is today's class. Bye bye everyone.